we start entertaining petitions that would seek to have the ban on logging lifted in piecemeal, then we shall run into a problem. So my take, Mr. Speaker, would be that perhaps that petition could have been brought in the context of the ban generally on logging of forests and forest products. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that a task force was set up by the government to look into this matter. And the task force has since tabled a report. I'm not sure what kind of report it has tabled. It has since submitted a report to the government. Mr. Speaker, it will be important for this House to interrogate that report for it to be able to act out of proper information. So, Mr. Speaker, without really attempting to forestall the petition by my honorable colleague, I wish to suggest that that petition be stood until and unless we have looked at that report of the task force. Thank you.
Well, politics is fairly local. Though of course this is not a house of politics. But you see, Honorable Rueda is bringing something that touches her people. Now, if you really wanted to make it broader, you know you also have the right of doing the same. I am not saying that it should be ruled one way or the other, because we will refer it to the committee anyway. You will have an opportunity to go there and canvass your position. Yeah, so let me see, the honorable member for... Now put it at the intervention slot, honorable members who want to speak. Let's see if honorable, yeah, coming first is Honorable Kosgei. Keep Kosgei. Is that member for Keyo South? Okay, I will give 2 more members, so I can see there is some interest, so I'll give 2 more members. What is your point of order, Honorable Ashiali? Honorable Kosgei has not even spoken.
I've not even opened my mouth,
okay, then
Mr.
probably
Speaker.
it is something to do with the previous speaker. You'll have your time anyway.
Mr. Speaker,
Yes.
thank you for this opportunity, and I rise on a point of order, Mr. Speaker, to inform the House that as members of the Committee on the Environment, we have a report that is read here to be tabled by Honorable Chachunganya. And I think if we allowed Chachunganya to table the report so that members do not start debating on an issue that is already seized by this committee, I think it will help this House than just raising issues that would actually be solved by this report, which is already ready with us as a Committee of Environment. Mr. Speaker.
Let me hear Honorable Kipkosgei first, and then we'll see how it goes. And then, of course, I'll give lastly to Honorable Ganya to confirm.
It's been a partial lift of the ban of logging, particularly the private people who own forests. So, if anything, a precedent has been set. So we can as well also do the same for the Lamu forest, which depend on that particular mangrove trees. So, Mr. Speaker, I support the petitioner.
Well, let's hear Honorable Chachu. And who is this member who has put up his hand very vigorously? I can't.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as Committee on Environment and Natural Resources, we are fully seized of this matter. Mr. Speaker, sir, for the last 1.5 months, we have been doing a serious investigation onto these issues, and I'm just about to table a report on the behalf of this of the committee. Mr. Speaker, sir, while I don't want to anticipate debate, because that's again the contrary to our standing orders, but I do want to ensure the honourable member for Lamu and others that we have seized of these issues. Some of the recommendations that the committee is going to make are likely to address the critical issues the honourable member and others have raised in this House. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, once we are given an opportunity to table this report and debate this report and ensure its implementation through the implementation committee, I think we are fully seized of this matter as an organ of this House. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Okay, now listening to that and the fact that the committee is about to table a report. Now, since it has not been tabled and the Honorable Rueda came earlier than the tabling of the report, I think we will have no harm having that petition placed before the committee. The committee will discuss it anyway. If it will have been captured by that specific report, Honorable Rueda will to canvass her position at the committee, like many members have wanted. Let's proceed. Let's proceed. Next order.
Order number 5, papers.
I see the leader of majority has quite a handful on this. Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following papers on the table of the House today, Thursday, May 3rd, 2018, in the morning sitting. 1, the address of His Excellency the President, delivered on Wednesday, May 2nd, 2018. 2, the report on measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of the national values and principles of governance by His Excellency the President, Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, EGH, President of the Republic of Kenya, and Commander-in-Chief of the Kenya Defense Forces. 3, the annual report to Parliament on the state of national security by His Excellency Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, CGH, President of the Republic of Kenya, and the Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces. And 4th, the report to Parliament on progress made in fulfillment of the international obligation of the Republic of Kenya by His Excellency Honorable Uhuru Kenyatta, CGH, President of the Republic of Kenya and Commander-in-Chief of the Defense Forces. 5th, the budget summary for the financial year 2018-2019 and the supporting information from the National Treasury. 6th, 2018-2019 estimates of revenue, grants and loans of the Government of Kenya for the year ending 30th June 2019. 7, 2018-2019 estimates of recurrent expenditure of the Government of Kenya for the year ending 30th June 2019, Volume 1, votes R1011 to R1162. 8, 2018-2019 estimates of recurrent expenditure of the Government of Kenya for the year ending 30th June 2019, Volume 2, in bracket votes D1165 to D2151. 9, 2018-2019 estimates of development expenditure of the Government of Kenya for the year ending 30th June 2019, Volume 1, votes D1011 to D1081. 10, 2018-2019 estimates of development expenditure of the Government of Kenya for the year ending 30th June 2019, Volume 2, in bracket votes D1091 to 1096. 11, 2018-2019 estimates of development expenditure of the Government of Kenya for the year ending 30th June 2019, Volume 3, votes D1107 to D2111. 12, 2018-2019 program-based budget of the Government of Kenya for the year ending 30th June 2019. 13, 2018-2019 annexes of estimates of revenue and expenditure for state corporations of the Government of Kenya for the financial year ending 30th June 2019 from the National Treasury and Ministry of Planning. 14, 2018-2019 list of projects by programs of the Government of Kenya for the year ending 30th June 2019. And finally, 15, Mr. Speaker, submission of the statutory 6 months preference and reservation report for the period July to December 2017, pursuant to Section 157, 12, and 13 of the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Act by the Public Procurement and Asset Disposal Authority. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. What is your point of order, the Leader, Minority Party?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I really appreciate the majority leader's efforts to table budget estimates today, Mr. Speaker, for the 2018-2019. Mr. Speaker, I'm aware that the Constitution talks about the Cabinet Secretary submitting these documents to Parliament at least 2 months to the end of the financial year. But, Mr. Speaker, it is important to clarify whether the spirit of the Constitution was that these estimates need to be tabled in Parliament and the National Assembly before the end of June. Before the end of April, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, even though it is not explicitly stated that the House should be seized of the budget estimates by putting the deadline of 30th April, or at least 2 months to the end of financial year for the tabling, but I think the spirit of the Constitution was that this House needs to be seized of these estimates before or on 30th of April every financial year. So, Mr. Speaker, I just wanted to get 2 clarifications from the Leader of Majority. One is when these estimates were forwarded to Parliament by the Cabinet Secretary, whether he met the deadline. But I think the Leader of Majority needs to communicate to the Treasury that they need to bring these estimates in good time so that they are tabled in Parliament before the end of April. Because you see now, today is 3rd of May, and these estimates cannot, once they are submitted to Parliament by the Cabinet Secretary, the Leader of Majority can decide to take a month with them again. So what safeguards are there to ensure that before the end of April, that the estimates are actually tabled in Parliament, so that the House is seized of it, the Budget Committee is seized of it? Because you go ahead to read that the provisions of the law, of the Constitution, it says that immediately they are tabled, the Budget Committee is supposed to take charge and start looking at the estimate. So I just want to cue a mischief where the Leader of Majority may decide, Mr. Speaker, to stay with these documents even for 1.5 months and submit them to the House towards the end of June, and we will not have time to interact with them. Thank you, Mr.
Unfortunately, the Constitution, next available opportunity, which is this morning. So really, let's see what Honorable Majority Leader has to say.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, let me go on record that the Minister for National Treasury complied with the provisions of the Constitution 30 days before the end of the financial year, and I can provide, 60 days before the end of the financial year, I can provide that is submitted on Monday, 30th April 2018. Monday, Mr. Speaker, was not a parliamentary sitting day. The next sitting day, Honorable Bandi, if you listen to me, because we know what we do in this House. We don't, we consult. So on Tuesday, yesterday, was a special session Wednesday.
Yes.
Tuesday was a public holiday. Wednesday was a special sitting of both houses. And Mr. Speaker, further, to make it more clear, in fact, Standing Order 235, 235.3 says, and if you allow me, the estimates and related documents submitted under paragraph 1 and 2 shall be tabled in the National Assembly within 3 days of submission. So, Mr. Speaker, that again makes my work very easy. I had even the choice to bring it in the afternoon or tomorrow if there was another sitting. So 3 days from the day of sitting, today is the first day. But because we are going on a recess, Mr. Speaker, I want to tell Honorable Mbandi that he can have issues with the National Treasury. But one time they told us, last time I remember, Mr. Speaker, they told us they were not ready to bring at that time. And they asked me and the Speaker, can we bring it later? And we told them, if you want to bring later, outside the 60 days, then they need to amend the Constitution. I remember. I told them you need to amend the Constitution, because it is the Constitution that says you must bring within the 60 days. So again, now the Standing Orders 235.3 provide. So, Mr. Speaker, the House is in order, we have
think so.
received on
I-
Monday.
I think it's
And if
perfectly
you
clear.
allow me, now I can table it.
Proceed and table. Let's go to the next report by the Chairman, Budget and Appropriation Committee.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and let me also take this opportunity before I lay my papers to thank the majority leader and both the minority leader for the point of order and the very good answer by the leader of majority. But also, Mr. Speaker, if you allow me to remind all chairs of committees that they have exactly 21 days from today to be able to consider these estimates, be able to meet with their MDAs and submit a report to the Budget and Appropriations Committee in the third week of May. So allow me also to inform members of Parliament, especially the new members.
Avoid using shortened terms, you know, MDAs. And you know, you must tell them what exactly this is.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker. MDAs, Mr. Speaker, they are ministries, departments, and agencies.
Correct. Now,
So
that's
they interact with them and consider the estimates and be able to table a report before the Budget and Appropriations Committee, hopefully by the 24th of May. And I also want to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to remind members that this long recess that we are going is a working recess on budget estimates. Therefore, they may not have a lot of time to meet their constituents. I want to encourage them to hang around Nairobi and be able to engage with their
now lay the papers,
ministries
the
and departments and
alumni of
agencies.
Alliance.
Therefore, Mr. Speaker, Honorable Speaker, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, May 3rd, 2018. The report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the estimates of the revenue and expenditure from the Equalization Fund for the financial year 2017-2018. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Now let's go to the next, Honorable Chachu, on behalf of the Environment and, the Environment and Natural Resources Committee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to lay the following paper on the table of the House today, Thursday, May 3rd, 2018. The report of the Departmental Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on the inquiry into the forest resource management and logging activities in Kenya.
Next order. Next order.
Order number 6, notices of motion.
Leader of Majority Party. You don't have any? I thought there was something on... Okay, let's have the budget one in the meantime, but I think something also from the Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I beg to give notice of the following motion that this House adopts the report of the Budget and Appropriations Committee on the estimates of revenue to and expenditure from the Equalization Fund for the financial year 2017-2018, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, May 3rd, 2018, and pursuant to Article 204, Sub-Article 3 of the Constitution, approves the withdrawal of Kenya shillings 11,977,764,688 from the Equalization Fund that consists of the following. 1, Kenya shillings 428,162,930.40 for recurrent expenditure, and 2 Kenya shillings 11,549,601,757.6 for development expenditure. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Very well. Leader of Majority Party.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 24-6, the thanks of this House be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the address of His Excellency the President delivered in Parliament on Wednesday, May the 2nd, 2018, and further notes the following reports submitted by the President in the fulfillment of the provisions of Article 132, 1B and C, and Article 240, subsection 7 of the Constitution, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, May 3rd, 2018. 1, the report on the report on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of the national values and principles of governance. 2, the report of the progress made in fulfillment of the international obligation of the Republic. And 3, the annual report to Parliament on the state of national security.
Very well. Honorable Ganya.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to give notice of the following motion, that this House adopts the report of the Parliamentary Committee on Environment and Natural Resources on the report of the inquiry into the forest resource management and logging activities in Kenya, laid on the table of this House today, Thursday, May 3rd, 2018.
Very well. Next order.
Order number 7, statements. Order number 8, procedural motion. Reduction of publication period of a bill.
Yes, is that a procedural motion by the leader? By Honorable Shungwa.
Yes.
But before you proceed, Honorable Shunga, let me recognize in the public gallery pupils, students from Shianda High School, Rarieda constituency of Sierra County, of course the constituency represented by Senior Counsel Otienda Amolo in the House. Proceed. Proceed, Honorable Ishungwa.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I wish to move the following procedural motion, that notwithstanding the provision of Standing Order 120, this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Supplementary Appropriation Number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill Number 15 of 2018, from 7 to 3 days. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I wish to call upon the Leader of Majority to second this procedural motion, Honorable Speaker.
Leader of Majority is a very senior member. You could have picked someone else. How can... okay, proceed anyway.
Chair, I totally agree with Honorable Pukose. He's saying that Honorable Chungwa is relegating me. Honorable Speaker, I beg to support this procedure motion. It's a very simple procedure motion because we are going to deal with this appropriation bill in all the 3 stages. And all that we need to do is just to reduce the publication period, that we get go-ahead from the House to deal with the first reading, second reading, third reading. And the Speaker, even this afternoon, I really want to help members to, and also the pastoralist members, that we are going to deal with the equalization fund. Also, we'll ask the House to reduce the publication period, because this is a House that every time we are going on recess, we make sure that we finish the pending business so that nobody will follow the leadership and the Speaker and the clerk. So I beg to move and ask the House to agree with us to reduce the period.
Okay.
I second.
So I propose a question which is that notwithstanding the provisions of Standing Order 120, this House approves to reduce the publication period of the Supplementary Appropriation Number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill Number 15 of 2018 from 7 to 3 days. And so I put the question, order, Honorable. Well, I'm not even so bothered about Honorable Cheptumo. I'm more interested about nominee 001, who is... you are out of order. I might actually make you stand and walk out of the House. Now, that is the last warning. So I put the question, which is that notwithstanding the provisions of the Standing Order 120, this House resolves to reduce the publication period of the Supplementary Appropriation Bill number 2 Bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2018 from 7 to 3 days. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of our contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it. And by the way, nominee 001, the Speaker stands and sits at his own pleasure, not at the pleasure of So, next order.
Order number 9, motion, approval for ratification of the African Continental Free Trade Area and the COMESA Tripartite Free Trade Area Agreements.
Okay, order members. I proceed to put the question, which is that, and I confirm, of course, that we have the required quorum. So I put the question, which is that this House adopts the report of the Departmental Committee on Defense and Foreign Relations on considerations of the African Continental Free Trade Area and the Tripartite Free Trade Area Agreement laid on the table of the House on Thursday, 26 April 2018, and pursuant to Section 8 of the Treaty Making and Ratification Act 2012, approves the ratification of the African Continental Free Trade Area and the COMESA Tripartite Free Trade Area Agreements. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many of our contrary opinions say nay? The ayes have it. Next order.
Order number 10, motion, establishment of civil registration centers in every constituency.
Again, order members, confirming that there is the required quorum. I put the question, which is aware that every birth in Kenya must be registered by the Department of Civil Registration and Documentation through a birth certificate. Further aware that the subsequent registration of citizens and acquisition of documentation such as identity card and passports, school admissions, registration of exams, and access to opportunities such as employment depends and relies on birth certificates. Deeply concerned that the Department of Civil Registration Services has over time experienced backlogs in issuance of birth certificates as a result of, among other factors, inadequate personnel, unwillingness to embrace information technology and communication, inadequate funding, and inadequate material used in registration of persons. Further deeply concerned that the registration services are not easily accessible to majority of Kenyans owing to few registration centers in place. This House urges the government to consider establishing civil registration centers in every constituency and ensure full implementation of the Kenya Citizens and Foreign Nationals Management Services Act of 2011. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 11, motion, creation of water collection and storage management systems in the cities and major towns in Kenya.
Again, order members, order. And who is this? Stand where you are and freeze, like in the fridge. Now, this one also, what remained was the question to be put, and I confirm still that we still have the required quorum. So I put the question, which is that aware that the fourth schedule of the Constitution provides for protection of environment and natural resources, and in particular, water protection, securing sufficient residual water, among others, by the national government. Further aware that the existence of the abundant water during rainy season goes to waste uncollected, deeply concerned about the destructive nature of the said excess water on roads, buildings, and other infrastructure, including loss of lives in cities and major towns, cognizant of the fact that during rainy periods, there is always rationing of water due to low water level in the reservoirs that serve the cities and major towns. This House urges the government to consider creating water collection and storage management systems in cities and major towns in Kenya. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
Order number 12, motion, report of the Committee of the Whole House on the Fiscal Planning Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2017.
Order members, again, I put the question, which is that this House do agree with the report of the Committee of the Whole House on its consideration of the Fiscal Planning Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2017. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as have a contrary opinion say nay. The ayes have it. Now, let me call them over to move that reading.
Honorable Speaker, I beg to move that the Fiscal Planning Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2017 be now read a third time, and ask Honorable Pukose, because I can't see the chair and the vice chair, to the Honorable Pukose to second. Member for Endebis.
Okay, so now you are seconding. So I propose, have you already seconded? So you want to go on record seconding? Proceed.
Honorable Speaker, I would want to second that the third reading of the Committee of the Whole House on the Fiscal Planning Bill be now read on a third time.
Very well. And I propose the question, which is that the Fiscal Planning Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2017, be now read a third time. Okay, so I put the question. Confirming, of course, also that still we have quorum. I put the question, which is that the Fiscal Planning Bill, National Assembly Bill number 34 of 2017, be now read a third time. Will as many as of that opinion say aye? Aye. Many as of a contrary opinion say nay? The ayes have it.
A bill for an act of parliament to make provisions for the planning, use, regulation, and development of land and for connected purposes.
Okay, next order.
Order number 13, the supplementary appropriation number 2 bill, National Assembly Bill number 15 of 2018, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to authorize the issue of certain sums of money out of the consolidated fund and the application towards the service of the year ending on the 30th June 2018, and to appropriate those sums for certain public services.
For only emergency and unforeseen circumstances for the application of this article. And we have observed with a lot of concern that the National Treasury continues to use this article to cater for payments that are not emergency or unforeseen in any manner, Mr. Speaker. Two, Mr. Speaker, the committee notes with concern that development spending is always compromised in every financial year, and only a portion of the original budgeted sum actually ends up being utilized for development purposes. Although it is indicated that the development budget cuts are due to low absorption, it is a fact that drastic and broad-based cuts on development expenditure is a recurring phenomenon in almost every budget year. This problem confirms emerging budget credibility weaknesses, Honorable Speaker, and therefore, again, it should be on this House to implore on the National Treasury and also the ministries, departments, and agencies of government to be able, one, to hasten the absorption of development funds so that we can be able to implement the development projects. And especially so, Madam Speaker, not noticed Mr. Speaker, sir, has vacated the seat. I was saying especially so, Madam Speaker, with the Big Four agenda and with the President's call yesterday on this House to support his Big Four agenda, it will be imperative that all ministries, departments, and agencies of government do ensure that where we allocate funds for development, that money is absorbed within the financial year that has been allocated. Therefore, Madam Speaker, with these concerns, and given the investigation surrounding the payment of land for compensation for Ruaraka High School and the drive-in primary school, the committee has recommended that the supplementary appropriation bill for 2017-2018 be amended so as to exclude Kenya shillings 1.5 billion for land compensation for Ruaraka High School and drive-in primary school. Further, the committee recommends that no future allocation shall be made towards this land until the investigations are over by the relevant committees of this House and any other investigative agencies in this Honorable Republic, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we shall be bringing that amendment during the third reading this afternoon, hopefully, if members do agree with the committee this morning, Honorable Speaker. And I want, Honorable Speaker, to reiterate the words of His Excellency the President yesterday, that we must get to a situation in this country, Madam Speaker, where issues pertaining to corruption or misappropriation of public funds are dealt with and dealt with decisively, Madam Speaker. Therefore, without indicting anybody, Honorable Speaker, it was a feeling of my committee that since this matter of Ruaraka, the Ruaraka Drive-In School and Ruaraka High School, is a matter that is under active investigation, not just by a committee of this House, but also by a committee of the other House, Honorable Speaker, that we do allow those committees to conclude their work before we approve the payment of that, notwithstanding the concerns, Honorable Speaker, that we have noted on the application of Article 223. You would ask yourself, Honorable Speaker, what is it that was so urgent for land to be paid for using Article 223, while the same, Honorable Speaker, would have been brought under the annual estimates, which were just months away. We are talking about less than 2 months away, Madam Speaker. Therefore, even if this payment was done in January this year, Honorable Speaker, there was time for the ministry concerned, for the National Land Commission, to allow those who oversight over public funds in the Committee of Lands to be able to interrogate that payment. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we do not want, as a budget committee, to be the people that are allowing government to appropriate funds outside of the constitutional provisions as provided under 223, Honorable Speaker. And therefore, we have observed and recommended to this House that we hold on to the approval of that House, that payment, Honorable Speaker. And there's a question that begs, what happens since it is money that is already expended? Honorable Speaker, we have deliberated as a committee on that issue since the money has already been expended. And we came to the conclusion, Honorable Speaker, that that money, as much as it has been paid out, since as a committee we do not know until the other committees finish with their investigations, Honorable Speaker, we will consider that payment as an illegitimate payment until the other committee concludes its investigations. And should there be, should that payment be okay, Honorable Speaker, in the wisdom of the other committees that are investigating, then the National Treasury and the Ministry of Education and the National Lands Commission are at liberty, and even the other House, are at liberty to bring back the same appropriation to be approved by this House, and our committee will be more than willing when all is well, Honorable Speaker, but we do not want to be the ones to jeopardize the ongoing investigation. And also, instructively, Madam Speaker, this House must not only act in unison, or to borrow President Uhuru's words, not in unity, but with unanimity, that the right hand of this House, being the Budget and Appropriations Committee, must know what the left hand is doing. And therefore, because we must work in unison, Honorable Speaker, it is only befitting that we accord the other committees of this House that are investigating this matter the respect that they deserve and the opportunity to be able to interrogate all these payments. And we do that, Honorable Speaker, in the spirit of what His Excellency the President said before this House in the State of the Nation address, that even as members of Parliament, as the people who oversight government, we must take charge to ensure that we safeguard public interest and public resources. With that, Honorable Speaker, I want to ask, I cannot see, oh sorry, he is seated across the board, my Vice Chair, the Honorable Musa Lesonet, to second.
Honorable Lesonet.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. And I just want to correct my chair that my name is Moses. Moses. Moses is Musa was in the Old Testament, and we are now in the new things.
But I thought Moses and Musa can be used interchangeably. Honorable Lesonet.
But for purpose of reference to myself, I think it's better when we just use the one I've alluded to. And Madam Speaker, I really want to thank the committee, the Budget and Appropriation Committee, for rising to the occasion, Madam Speaker, and putting their foot down on these 1.5 billion shillings being payment towards the land in Ruaraka, Madam Speaker, where as budget, we did not see any emergency in that payment. There was no eviction order of the schools. There was nobody in court to attempt to evict those schools. There was really nothing, Madam Speaker, to warrant that amount of payment and the application of 223. Madam Speaker, when we looked at that payment, the time it was paid, and the requirements of the Constitution in the use of 223, that you can only use that section if the House is not sitting. Madam Speaker, during that payment, the House was sitting. So meaning the Minister could have easily brought that request to this House for approval. Madam Speaker, it also requires that even in case the House is not sitting, the Minister should be able to bring it within 2 months to this House for our approval, Madam Speaker, which was not done. The 2 months period have lapsed. Madam Speaker, we also want the Committee on Health to go further and look at a payment which, although the budget has approved it in the supplementary, we still want further investigation, Madam Speaker, on purported acquisition of 37 scanners for 37 hospitals in Kenya, which again, that provision of 223 of the Constitution has been used. And we also don't see, Madam Speaker, the urgency. We didn't see the urgency for the use of that 223. And Madam Speaker, it is even possible that even by the end of this year, while we have used 223 to make a payment of 1.7 billion to some Chinese company, Madam Speaker, it is possible by the end of this year, even those scanners may not have arrived in Kenya. And I say that, Madam Speaker, because when we look at history, we still have several containers stuck in Mombasa for so many years, where we don't know when were those containers paid, or even whether that application of 223 was used, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, as I finish, we also want to let Treasury know that there is a big component of budget which doesn't come to this House. It only comes to this House when it is a mandatory payment, Madam Speaker. That if we are doing a project using loans, if we are doing a project using donor monies, Madam Speaker, we don't see it in this House. We only see it at the tail end when it is payment of that loan or payment of the interest in respect of that loan, Madam Speaker. But during the process of agreeing that this project needs to be done, we don't get to see it, Madam Speaker. And that is why the Budget and Appropriation Committee will be proposing amendments to the PFM Act, Madam Speaker, to require that donor-funded projects which are funded through loans, all those projects you see in the papers designed as finance and build, Madam Speaker, they need to come to this House beforehand so that we can exercise our mandate in budget making. So, Madam Speaker, with those remarks, I beg to second that motion. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Order, members. Honorable members, I therefore go ahead to propose the question that the supplementary appropriation number 2 bill, National Assembly of 2018, be now read a second time. I have quite a number of requests here. I'm not sure whether they apply to this bill or the next business. Honorable Leader of Majority.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I beg to support this motion bill on the second reading of the supplementary estimates for financial year 2018. Madam Speaker, we were told the essence of this supplementary was one to address emerging challenges in the budget implementation process that had occurred in the course of the financial year. And this was occasioned by the shortfalls in revenue collection by Kenya Revenue Authority, and again shortfalls in salaries following job evaluation in the civil service. There was also the need to honor the collective bargaining agreement in the health and education sector, and of course create some little more resources for the security-related expenditure. And Madam Speaker, of course, other reasons that were given for the second supplementary two estimates included the provisions for maize and fertilizer subsidy, support to the manufacturing sector, and provisions to certain critical infrastructure. And I hope, Madam Speaker, the way the Minister is using Article 223 for unforeseen expenditures, I hope now he uses that to help the many millions Kenyans who are suffering under the flood system, the infrastructure which is being destroyed, because he doesn't need to come back to Parliament. He can use 2 to 3 to allocate resources to the flood victims in every part of our country. And I think that is better than allocating 1.5 million to Roaka ghost and fictitious accounts. And I think, Madam Speaker, this House is under obligation to amend the PFM Act and give provisions under the PFM Act on how the minister can use that provisions of the article in the Constitution. Because in my opinion, it's being abused. Yeah, and I really want to thank the chair of budget and the committee where the minority leader sits, that we should not, nobody should use this House to sanitize illegal and fictitious payments. At least we can protect the image and integrity of this House. That unless the Lands Committee concludes that investigation, and Madam Speaker, you know the Senate is dealing with a matter which is already being done by the National Assembly. We are wasting public resources. Yeah, so, Madam Speaker, we really don't want to sanitize that 1.5 million. Let it be in the records of the House through the Budget and Appropriation Committee report that until we go to the bottom of that matter, no further payment will be made, and that 1.5 billion is also hanging in the balance. But I have said, Madam Speaker, that we need to amend the PFM Act and give provisions in how the minister can use that 223. And Madam Speaker, I hope the chair must have received the projects that were paid under 223 before this House approved it. The other thing, Madam Speaker, we need to look at, and the committee needs to look at, and I don't know whether they have put it in their report, is the variations. The Constitution and the PFM Act are very clear on how the minister can vary in terms of support to a project. But we have seen variation as large as 185%. I mean, that is unacceptable. It's not, I think. And I think the budget-making process was given to the National Assembly, not the Senate. And we must guard that constitutional powers given to this House, Madam Speaker. I hope the minister at times will also use the Article 223 to give resources to CDF, to national government CDF. Because, you know, this provision, Madam Speaker, it is only used for certain dark payments, which are done in the middle of the night. We have no problem if these payments are done for building a road in our constituencies. But why do you want to use 2 to 3 to pay 1.5 billion? And I told the chair of budget, Madam Speaker, that going forward, the budget that we table today and the supplementary budgets that will come, as members of parliament, let us scrutinize these documents and know what are we passing and what are we not passing. You know where I come from? We use torches to get the footprints of the livestock when they are lost at night. We need a torch to look at these documents so that we never again fictitious payment, the likes of the golden back, passes through this. And I really want to thank the chair of lands, that they should be firm, they should not be compromised. And the president has given his word yesterday. Yeah, so you cannot, as Jubilee, as other coalition, now the president says, these 5 years, the war on corruption will not spare anybody, even including parliament. So if we want to be remembered as legislators, let us take the war on corruption even within the corridors of parliament. That we stand, we protect the constitution and we protect the reports that come through the House. Madam Speaker, finally, just to highlight the key figures, the supplementary budget has a net decrease of 17.6 billion. And these are mostly cuts from the development budget, which in the report tabled by the chair had a net decrease of 40.8 billion. Madam Speaker, when you cut the development budget, you are actually reducing projects, development projects in our constituencies. And I think the minister must also give to the committee and to the House which are these projects, in which constituency, in which county, that are becoming a victim of these development cuts. That if they're in a township, I can stand in this House and oppose it. Because his cut, the cut is 40.6 billion, an equivalent of 6.6% decrease. But I really want the chair of budget and the other members, please, let the House and the country know which are these projects which are being affected by the decrease in as far as the development expenditure the decrease is concerned. On the other hand, Madam Speaker, the recurrent budget has a net increase of 23.2 billion, an equivalent of 2.2%, an increase that has contributed, of course, to the recurrent expenditure rising beyond the initial budget levels. But, Speaker, again, another highlight is that the consolidated fund services has also increased by 27.6 billion, particularly, of course, due to the high interest rates and the debt redemptions that we face. So, Madam Speaker, I think we really want to thank the Chair of Budget and his members for making sure that they comply with the timelines. Timelines are given in the standing orders. And that's why, Madam Speaker, the Chair said, as we table today the budget estimates for 2018-2019, we really want to ask our colleagues in the various departmental committees that as you interrogate these budgets, please make sure that you look at each and every item so that we represent the people of Kenya to make sure that their earned taxes, their resources, the public resources, is intended and is used for the purpose of the people of Kenya. I beg to support.
Honorable Leader of Minority.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. In contributing to this motion, Madam Speaker, on supplementary budget estimates 2, first, I want to start by saying that it is now becoming a tradition by the Treasury to always prepare two supplementary budgets in every financial year. Madam Speaker, this practice began in 2015-2016, and we thought it was a one-off thing. But now, this is the third year round that it has become a tradition. I think it is important to remind the Treasury that a lot of changes to our budgets is disorganizing the economic stability of this country and is not very good going forward for our economic planning. But, Madam Speaker, what is the essence of Article 223 of the Constitution? The people of Kenya provided this provision in our Constitution to allow the Treasury, the government in general, but with the authority from the Treasury, to spend money and seek Parliament's approval after spending within 2 months. Madam Speaker, this House will recall that before the 2010 Constitution, supplementary budgets used to be prepared, but it was being prepared to allow for additional funding to government ministries and departments. But with this Constitution, the whole budget-making process changed. That now the ministries can spend some specific amount where the amount provided for that purpose under the Appropriation Act is not sufficient, or a need as a reason for expenditure for a purpose for which no amount has been appropriated by the Act. So now you are allowed as a government to spend money and seek Parliament's approval later and within 2 months. But, Madam Speaker, as ministries spend, as departments spend, as agencies spend, they must seek authority of the Treasury. The Cabinet Secretary in charge of Treasury must give authority, even though the authority from Parliament comes later. Then the question comes that what did the people of Kenya have in mind when they were allowing Cabinet Secretary these excess powers, this latitude, to be allowing government ministries and departments to spend some money which is not appropriated for? It was believed and that the Treasury would exercise professionalism and caution. But, Madam Speaker, it is becoming apparent that, as the Leader of Majority did say, that actually the Treasury is misusing the powers that they are given by the Constitution and which they were given in trust by the people of Kenya. And therefore, Parliament must come in to rein on the Treasury, to control and check the amounts that are spent under Article 223. Madam Speaker, I don't want to belabor the point that both the mover of the motion and the minority leader, and even the seconder, or the Honorable Lesonet, who seconded the motion, have spoken about. We are being asked as a House, Madam Speaker, to approve 1.5 billion to pay for this land at Ruaraka. This is just part payment or partial payment. Actually, it is money that has been paid already, Madam Speaker, for your information. But we are being asked to sanitize it through this supplementary budget process, but there is a further 1.7 billion awaiting to be paid. Madam Speaker, that is 3.2 billion for a 13.5-acre piece of land in Ruaraka. I saw the land values released just the other day, and I did not see Ruaraka as having as being categorized as one of the areas where land would go for 250 million per acre. Madam Speaker, what is of concern is when we were now interrogating this matter, we were being told that this amount was released under Article 223, which amount should only be paid for matters that are emergency in nature, or matters that are so critical to this country that cannot wait for parliamentary approval. But, Madam Speaker, the Treasury allowed this money to be paid. And when you ask the Ministry of Education under whose votes this money has been released, they tell you point blank that as a ministry, we were a conduit. A conduit for who? That is what people of Kenya want to know. And you ask the Ministry of Lands, they look confused. And they are the same ones who are investigating this matter. Madam Speaker, I think also as committees of this Parliament, we need, yes, the committee. In fact, we interrogated the chair of the Lands Committee, and it was not coming out clearly why they have brought a report with that amount in it, and they have not questioned.
Now, Madam Speaker, one thing that you need, and I am happy this is in the spirit of the President's speech yesterday, that we must help the executive fight corruption. And one of the benefits of the handshake, Madam Speaker, is going to help this House to rein on the executive. In fact, the casualties will be people like Treasury, who still think that this House would be divided by partisan political interests, and we would not interrogate this matter. In fact, those who are saying that there will be no opposition in this House, that now there will be no accountability and oversighting of government, they will be shocked. Because now we are going to oversight government without any partisan thinking. We are now going to work as a parliament and look at these figures and interrogate the budget, interrogate expenditure with objectivity and without any subjectivity. And therefore, it is a warning to the executive that those who have been cutting corners, that your time is up. Madam Speaker, I want to really, because I know many of my colleagues want to contribute to this supplementary budget. Remember this 1.5 billion that we are giving to these people I can call crooks. Because you read the recent, I think it was over the weekend, or it was on Tuesday, the papers, you could see the kind of evidence that that man is giving. Even if he has cooked them, he must be very good. This money that we are giving crooks, Madam Speaker, is coming from the budget for roads, for example. I wanted just to maybe answer to the leader of majority. That roads, I think, was losing about 34 billion. Roads is losing 34 billion to pay someone who is conning us in Warak. Money that should develop our roads. And then you claim we don't have money in this country. Madam Speaker, we have money, but we have many thieves who steal this money to the extent money cannot be enough to develop this country. That is what we must fight. Madam Speaker, I'm happy that the Lands Committee is investigating this matter. And I want the Lands Committee, I want to speak to the Lands Committee as one of the leaders of this House, as the leadership of this House. This is a matter that you must approach for the best interests of this country. These are matters that you cannot, please don't even allow any other thinking to cloud your mind. And Madam Speaker, before I conclude, I want you to allow me to respond to some attacks that was directed at me by my very good friend, someone whom we have never disagreed with, the chair of PAC in the Senate, Moses Otieno Kajwang. He attacked me somewhere that I questioned why Senate is also involved in the same matter that the House Committee of National Assembly is involved in. Madam Speaker, with honesty, and this is not fighting Senate in any way. I have no interest in fighting Senate with a clear mind, and I can be wrong. I'm not an angel, but it is not a reason for anybody to attack me as if I had issues with the Senate in general. I just had issue with that matter. Madam Speaker, there is also some money that, although we have approved it, but I think it should also be looked at. The money that we have allocated, the 1.7 billion for buying scanners for some counties, some specific counties. The question we want to ask is why the national government is obsessed with buying these medical equipment without clear explanation. We know one of the Agenda 4 items is universal health care. But if we are not careful, Madam Speaker, my concern with these flagship projects is the moment the government makes a policy pronouncement on a major item which is considered flagship, there are already people waiting somewhere and scheming how to use that good agenda of government to take money to enrich themselves. And therefore, Madam Speaker, we will look at this matter again. We will look at it. And I want to thank my chair for moving that amendment in the afternoon on the Ruaraka land. But we will relook even at these areas of buying and leasing. Because now it has moved from leasing, now we are purchasing medical equipment. We were leasing the other time. Before even a clear explanation is given on that, now we are buying. But we need to understand whether there is value for money, because there are people who think we are spending so much money beyond the ordinary or the reasonable price for those equipment. Madam Speaker, I wanted to end there because I know many of my colleagues would also want to add their voices on this motion by saying I support
and I support the amendment even before it is moved by the chair of my committee. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I have spoken because actually I realized that I hold a record in this country as the only MP who has been in the Budget and Appropriations Committee ever since it was born. The Budget and Appropriations Committee was born in 2008, and I've been in this committee all this time. I'm happy that this time the membership that we have in this committee is a membership that is very objective in the assessment and very enthusiastic in understanding the budget estimates. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I support.
Great, Honorable Leader of Minority. Honorable Cecily Mbarire.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to add my voice to that of my colleagues in support of this motion. And let me begin by really thanking the Budget and Appropriations Committee under the able leadership of the Chair, the Honorable Ishongwa, and the entire membership for a job well done. Madam Speaker, we've been told that the reason why the supplementary budget is coming is, is to take care of the shortfall that has been occasioned by low revenue collection by the KRA. We also have issues of CBA. We have had job evaluations in civil service, and therefore there will be need to add the money, Madam Speaker. My only concern, Madam Speaker, is the rationale behind this money being spent. I would be happier if I was reading that this money is being spent on development expenditure. And my reading of Article 223 of the Constitution is that money spent under this particular provision should be money that is of a real felt need, of an emergency nature or an unforeseen nature. But more importantly, one being used on development expenditure, Madam Speaker. If we were here today being told the reason we are passing this particular supplementary budget is to pass monies meant to take care of the floods that we are witnessing across the country, Madam Speaker, of the food challenges that are there due to these floods and the long drought that we had before the rains, I would be happier, Madam Speaker. But when the chair of the Budget Committee, and I want to really thank that committee, tells us that it is money to pay for schools, Ruaraka, 1.5 billion already paid out, Madam Speaker, without evidence of the real owners of that land. I feel that this House must say no to that kind of spending, Madam Speaker. And we cannot be used to sanitize an illegality that has already taken place. And so my urge to the Committee on Lands, led again by the Honorable Rachel Nyamai, is that they will do the proper job. Only a small portion of what was originally allocated for development is used, Madam Speaker. The excuse is that they have absorption challenges, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, we all know that year in, year out, every ministry, every government agency signs a performance contract to confirm that they will do certain things, that they will meet certain targets in their ministry. And these targets are hinged on the development agenda, the development budget of that particular ministry, of that particular agency. Madam Speaker, the question is, are we signing performance contracts for the sake of it, or are we signing them so that we can be able to meet the targets? And what happens to those officials, to those ministries that don't meet the targets for the year, Madam Speaker? Other than naming who performed best in terms of performance contracting, what else happens to the ones who perform poorest, Madam Speaker? And how come it's always the development budget that is compromised, but we are ready to spend a lot of money in recurrent budget, Madam Speaker? Madam Speaker, we have seen this weakness not just at the national government, but also at the county government, Madam Speaker, where you find a lot of the money is going towards recurrent expenditure. Kenyans want to see more development. Right now, a lot of the roads are totally destroyed because of the heavy rains. We need more money in roads, for example, so that we are able to take care of all these infrastructure challenges that have been occasioned by the heavy rains, Madam Speaker. So I really hope that going forward, we are going to see real efforts in terms of ensuring that the absorption rates of our development expenditure is high enough, that we are talking about at least on the minimum 80% absorption rates and not 40 or 30 or 50, Madam Speaker. Otherwise, there is no reason why we should keep coming here, year in, year out, passing budgets that are not followed, Madam Speaker. With those remarks, Madam Speaker, may I urge this House to support the report of the Budget Committee and urge the Budget Committee to continue doing the good work they are doing to ensure that everything that comes before that committee is looked at keenly to ensure we do the right thing, Madam Speaker. With those few remarks, I support.
Honorable Makali Mulu.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance also to add my voice into this debate on the supplementary budget. Madam Speaker, I want to join my colleagues in really appreciating the work which has been done by the Budget Committee in terms of looking at this important budget. Madam Speaker, supplementary budgets are anchored in the Constitution in Article 223. And when you look at that article, Madam Speaker, it says very clearly that it only takes care of emergencies. And there is also a provision which members are not mentioning, but which is also critical, Madam Speaker. The issue of regularizing expenditures, which were not foreseen, but might require also additional resources. Or situations where you had planned to spend money, but you're not able to spend because of unforeseen circumstances, so you need to regularize that amount so that it doesn't appear like it was not spent. So, Madam Speaker, looking at that, I think this supplementary budget, in addition to what members are saying, has also some positive aspects of it. And it's also important we highlight them. Madam Speaker, in this supplementary budget, there's money for hiring of teachers, additional teachers. And I think this country, we have challenges with teachers all over the place. And where we see a situation where efforts are being made, that we make provisions for hiring additional teachers. That is very important for this country, Madam Speaker. In the same budget, Madam Speaker, there is also money to address some of the CBS, the collective bargaining agreements, which have been done between workers and the government. And I think you know, Madam Speaker, this country is suffering a lot of strikes as a result of workers complaining that their interests are not being taken care of. So there's also some provision that these strikes can be addressed by providing resources so that the government is able to honor some of those agreements. But having said that, Madam Speaker, I think there are issues we must say, Madam Speaker, as a House. And I'm very happy that it seems the mood of the 12th Parliament is now changing towards proper budget making, what I will call effective budget making process. I'm very happy when I see what members are saying, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, let me pick the issue of reducing the development budget, which has been mentioned by my colleagues. Madam Speaker, you know, it's very unfortunate. Treasury will go ahead, tell us we have reduced this amount of billions in the development budget. But nobody tells us what are the consequences of what they are doing in terms of economic growth. Because when you reduce development budget, it will have impact on economic growth. It will have impact on issues like interest rates. It will have impact on employment. And I think Treasury needs to go that extra mile and tell Kenyans, when we reduce the development budget, really, what are we doing to economic growth? Because they assume it remains the same. And I'm imagining by the time they were doing the budgeting, because there are assumptions which were made, those assumptions could not remain constant when they are reducing the development budget. This is given why this money should be reduced. I think we should be in a position to say, no, you are not reducing, and we push that those who implement are able to use this money. Because when they said they wanted this money in July last year, they had assessed their capacity to use the money. So are they telling us the capacity has disappeared? Or what has really happened that we reduce this budget? The issue of abusing Article 223, Madam Chair, I think has been really well explained by my colleagues. The land issue, I don't want to say anything on that, but I just want to say, I think Treasury needs to note that members now are more alert and will not allow expenditures which are just being paid, and they are not emergency in nature, to go through this House. So this should be a lesson to Treasury, that before they pay, they must make sure that whatever payment they are making fits very well within Article 223, which really makes provision for supplementary budget, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, you realize in this budget also, there was an attempt to reduce the county government allocation. And Madam Chair, I'm happy that that has not now seen the right of, has not gone through this process, Madam Chair. Because, Madam Chair, the Division of Revenue Act we passed last year, it was very clear, Madam Chair, that when revenue collection, we don't achieve the targeted figure, Madam Chair, you can't change the county government allocation. The only amount you can change, Madam Chair, is amount to the national government. So that attempt was very unconstitutional, and we don't want to see that any other attempt in the future coming towards that direction. Once the Division of Revenue Act is passed by this House, Madam Chair, the figures for the county government should remain as they are unless we are increasing those figures, Madam Chair. And I think that's what the law says, and you really need to adhere to the law, Madam Chair. So, Madam Chair, as I support approval of this budget, Madam Chair, I just want to say the issue of the CT scan, which has been mentioned by Honorable Bandi. The Minister of Health is proposing that they get 1.7 billion to pay for CT scan. And, Madam Chair, I want to repeat and emphasize what has been said before. Madam Chair, supplementary budgets are not there to provide for additional development programs. They are there to only address emergencies. So in a situation where we see a big project like what we have been mentioned, the CT scan, Madam Chair, which will cost about 8.2 billion, and we have been asked to provide 1.7, to me, this is what I would call poor planning. And it is, Madam Chair, a situation where we are not really aligning our planning with the budgeting and implementation. And if we want to get it right, Madam Chair, we must start, and we must be very strict as a House, to make sure that the executive aligns their planning, their budgeting, and implementation. In that case, Madam Chair, Kenyans will get value for money, and we will be able to really make this economy grow. Because, Madam Chair, even as we talk about national unity, Madam Chair, national unity can only be achieved where Kenyans are getting the services they require. In a situation where there are shortages of service in terms of delivery, Madam Chair, then I don't think you tell a guy who has left hungry that we can talk about unity. Unity comes after my stomach is full, then we can talk about my unity. And I think what we need, Madam Chair, is a situation where we can now enlarge the national cake. We need to grow this economy to a situation that the economy grows up to the 10% which was targeted, Madam Chair. In that case, there will be enough resources in this country to take care of our basic needs and also be able now to go and develop more. So unless we do that, Madam Chair, then we will not be able to go far. And that can only be achieved if we really do proper budgeting so that we target proper programs and Kenyans get value for money. So the whole issue of corruption, Madam Chair, must be addressed. I think as a House, I want to join my colleagues and say that we must also be in the front line in terms of fighting corruption issues. With those remarks, Madam Chair, I support. Thank you very much.
Member for Othaya. Honorable Gishuki.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance to support this important motion. Madam Speaker, just want also to thank our able chair for leading us well in putting enough input to this appropriation bill and to make sure that Kenyans have value for money. Madam Speaker, the bill before us, Madam Speaker, we spent a lot of time in the Budget Committee, and as my colleagues have said, we have to make sure that our Kenyans get value for money. We have concerns, Madam Speaker, that the government the other day adopted a policy to lease health equipment, Madam Speaker. Then when it comes to supplementary budgets, we are seeing huge figures for purchase of equipment. Madam Speaker, as much as we are passing this amount for the scanners, we still have to follow and ask ourselves whether the government is still sticking to the leasing of equipment or they are going back to purchasing of equipment. Because when the issue of leasing was floated, Madam Speaker, we were given all the advantages of leasing, including chances that will not be having the cost of obsolescence of our equipment, Madam Speaker, because it's carried by the lessor of the equipment. But today we're seeing a huge budget of scanners.
Order, members. Order.
We are seeing a huge budget
Order.
of scanners,
Please,
Madam Speaker.
Just a minute, Honorable Member for Odhaya. Kindly let us consult in low tones. And even the handshake should be silent, not loud. Go on, Honorable Member for Odhaya.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for your intervention. So, Madam Speaker, we are also calling for consistency in the use of public funds. Madam Speaker, the other issue is the issue the other members have raised about this Lualaka Rad. It is a major concern to the committee because the budget, one thing that really happened to our constitution is the transfer of this budget-making task and process to this House, Madam Speaker. Because we represent Kenyans, we represent the taxpayers, and it's our duty to make sure that their money is used in the right manner, Madam Speaker. But when we see that 3.2 billion can be paid to a single group that sat somewhere in a corner, manufactured papers and owned land somewhere, and now they want to sell it back to the public, and they are paid in a hurry, we are concerned, Madam Speaker. And I can assure you, Madam Speaker, if that payment goes through, we are going to open a Pandora's box in this country. Because there are many people who sold land to government at low prices those old times. They are all back in boardroom, manufacturing papers and saying, we were paid little money. Now we want to be paid big money because we've had this big money somewhere. So, Madam Speaker, this, our committee, ably led by our chairman, we have said we'll keep our eyes open and we're not going to allow public money to be spent in areas that is not benefiting Wajiko, whereas we know our government, our president, has a strong and focused vision on the 4 agenda items. We will ensure that money is aligned to the Big 4 agenda, Madam Speaker, but not to items that are not on this Big 4 agenda. And we would have been happier to see our budget putting more money in health, putting more money in housing, putting more money on food security, Madam Speaker, and putting more money in areas that are affecting our people. We know our roads have deteriorated with these rains. We are not seeing money being directed in repairing the damage that has been caused by these rains. We have not seen money, Madam Speaker, being redirected on controlling floods that are already killing our people. And, Madam Speaker, will be keen next time to see that supplementary budgets are being directed to the right areas and are properly being appropriated, Madam Speaker. I beg to support. Thank you.
What's the point of order, Honorable Kaduri?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm raising on, standing on 95.1. Reading the mood of this House, Madam Speaker, and with the spirit of the handshake, I think most of us are very eager to debate the President's speech yesterday, which was brought forth yesterday. And therefore, Madam Speaker, I move that the move of the mood.
We agree to move on. Order, members.
Of corruption in this country, Honorable Speaker. We have a duty and a national responsibility as leaders to ensure that we safeguard public assets and public funds, Honorable Speaker. If we fail in this momentous task, that the people of this great republic have bestowed on us as members of parliament, we will have in a big way failed the people of Kenya who have elected us and charged us with the responsibility of not just representing them in this house, but more importantly, to oversight how public funds are utilized, Honorable Speaker. Madam Speaker, it is also important to mention, because the leader of minority, the Honorable John Mbadi, did mention the question of CT scans when we were having a handshake with the Honorable, my good friend and doctor here. We were just discussing the same issue, that we have...
Did you say daughter?
Dr. Nyikal.
Oh, okay.
Yes, I said my handshake with the Honorable Dr. Nyikal. We were just consulting on the question of the CT scans, the managed equipment program that this government started. And you remember, Honorable Speaker, even it started from motor vehicles in the last parliament, that we started leasing motor vehicles instead of buying. And now we have been leasing medical equipment. And I wanted to say that in answer to the Honorable Leader for Minority, because he's a member of the committee and is aware, and it's good to let the House know that indeed, in our report, if you read our report for the budget policy statement earlier this year, we did indicate that when later this month we proceed to do public participation, part of the public participation we intend to do is to visit a number of the health centers that are under this managed equipment program, to see for ourselves and verify how this program is working, because there have been reports that there are instances where consumables are not provided and machines are there in hospitals but are not being utilized. Therefore, I want to assure this House, Madam Speaker, and the people of this great republic, that even as we consider the issues to the purchase of CT scans, we'll also be looking into the issue of the managed equipment program. With those few remarks, let me thank members who have contributed to this motion and encourage them to be there this afternoon as we consider the amendments that may come in the third reading, and also the appropriations for the equalization fund later this afternoon. With those few remarks, Honorable Speaker, thank you, and thank you to all members. And I move.
Well put, Chair. We shall defer the question on this one to a later date, when it shall be slotted again by the House Business Committee. And we shall move to the next order.
Order number 15, motion, debate on the President's address, day 1.
Honorable Leader of Majority.
Honorable Madam Speaker, I beg to move that pursuant to the provisions of Standing Order 24, subsection 6, the thanks of this House be recorded for the exposition of public policy contained in the address of His Excellency the President, delivered in Parliament on Wednesday, May the 2nd, 2018, and further notes that the following reports submitted by the President in the fulfillment of the provisions of Article 2132(1)(b) and C and 240 subsection 7 of the Constitution, laid on the table of the House on Thursday, May 3rd, 2018. And these reports are the report on the measures taken and progress achieved in the realization of the national values and principles of governance. 2, the report on the progress made in fulfillment of the international obligation of the Republic. And lastly, the annual report to Parliament on the state of national security. Madam Speaker, it's my profound privilege to rise to my feet to move a motion on the discussion on the state of the national address by His Excellency the President on 2nd May 2018. And before I begin, Madam Speaker, I beg in his second term of office and the 5th since first being elected President, but most significantly, it was the first state of the national address to the 12th Parliament. As such, Madam Speaker, the head of state was right to reflect on the undeniable successes of 2013 to 2017, which was His Excellency's first term. And at the same was the foundation stones for lasting legacy of positive transformation of our blessed land through his visionary Big Four agenda for his second term. Madam Speaker, as outlined by the President, the state of the nation is strong. The Kenya of today is one of the significant enhanced liberties, equity, prosperity, cohesion, and integration. The 11th Parliament, Madam Speaker's role was in delivering this agenda, and now it is the time for the 12th Parliament to take the baton from our predecessors and run this race with even greater vigor and commitment. Madam Speaker, while the President's address touched on so many seminal points, I believe that as this August House sits today, and after the long recess to discuss the President's address, our discussion will revolve around the following legacy, shaping points articulated by the head of state and government in his address. And these are his administration unshakable and steadfast commitment to the fight against corruption, with a clarion call to all Kenyans of goodwill to play their part in this noble fight. That the President made it very, very clear that those in the public sector, those in the private sector, the ordinary citizens of our land, the leadership, and that is both houses and at both levels of government, must adhere to his call of goodwill on their part in the noble fight against corruption. 2, that the government of Kenya, of which he leads, has unquestioned commitment to the Constitution of Kenya 2010 and its vision for devolution. That the system of governance was ushered in by the 2010 Constitution and has well stewarded by His Excellency the President from its inception in 2013. That despite these times of in the Constitution, and this has become a reality. And that's why, Madam Speaker, since the inception of devolution, from 2013, when this House allocated 210 billion, today we are proudly saying in 2018-2019 financial year, devolution or county governments have been allocated about 370 billion Kenya shillings. Madam Speaker, we need those resources to be felt among our citizens. 3, that the government's Big Four agenda, built on the undeniable and self-evident success of the first term and the 11th Parliament, enjoys the support across the political divide. That we stand with the President in shaping up his 4 legacy projects. That the head of state and government situated these as the most important social, political, and economic project of recent time. A plan of action that will ensure that tremendous increase in manufacturing by increasing our manufacturing sector by about 15% of the GDP, the provision of universal health care, the provision of affordable housing, and of course guaranteeing food security to all citizens are realized. We dwell in unity, peace and liberty, plenty be found within our borders. That is the summary, if I put it in one sentence, the hallmark of the speech of the President. Madam Speaker, this speech of the President, within the reading of the standing orders, will be debated by the House in the next consecutive sittings. And I'm sure members, in the next 4 consecutive sittings, that the House will be sitting. Madam Speaker, I beg to move and ask Honorable 001, the guy who's dressed in the colors of the Kenyan flag, Honorable Sonkok, to second.
Majority Leader is no longer Madam Speaker, it's Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I need to go and answer that. As I was looking at the great lady of Nairobi County, I forgot to look at the who has occupied. No, I was looking because I don't look at the back. Honorable Chair of Budget wants me to look at the back, which the standing orders. So I was looking at, but Mr. Speaker, your indulgence, I had no bad intention. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move and ask Honorable Sonkok to second.
Very well. Very well. Honorable Sankok, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, the mover of the motion, His Excellency Adan Duale. For sure, the President's speech yesterday touched on various issues, among them the issue of his Big Four agenda, which I'm sure, and from all indication, that he is ready to implement and to make sure that services delivery to the common mwananchi is achieved. Honorable Speaker, but what touched my heart most was the humbleness of our President. Honorable Speaker, the apology that the President yesterday offered to the country is not just an apology from any other Tom, Dick, and Harry. It is an apology from the head of state, the commander-in-chief of all our armed forces, the head of government. He decided to humble himself and apologize, and decided to shake hands with every Kenyan and with those who call him Mtoto wa Umbwa. He's a humble president, a president who aspires to see a country that is united, a country that is peaceful, a country that is full of love, a country of one people, one nation, and one God, a country that have the same destiny. Honorable Speaker, when I listen to the President's speech and compare it with the speech that I had during Labor Day, I realize as a country we are lucky to have this President. During Labor Day celebration, we had some elders becoming demigod and forgiving. You know, it's only God who can forgive. Forgiving Safaricom, forgiving Brookside, forgiving other institutions. Yet our President is there to ask for forgiveness from Kenyans for anything he may have done without his knowledge, or he may have said that may have caused some division in our country. Honorable Speaker, it was a speech of a statesman, a speech of a head of state who loves his country, who adores his people. Honorable Speaker, in that spirit of seeking forgiveness, I also, as nominee 001, would like to ask for forgiveness from those whom I may have wronged in one way or the other. I know I may have used very heavy words like Tinga Bila Mafuta, CJ Bonoko. I may have used very strong words that may have caused some uncomfort to some people. Honorable Ngeno, wearing a helmet to go and fight with a rat, in reference to some people, I do sincerely apologize. I also apologize to members of even the Jubilee side, whom I may have wronged. You remember Honorable Keter lifespan as the chairman of Labour Committee was synonymous with the lifespan of one Simon Makonde of 7 days. He was born on Monday, named on Tuesday. He was baptized on Wednesday. He married on Thursday. He was taken ill on Friday. He died on Saturday. and he was buried on Sunday. That was the lifespan of Honorable Keter while he was the chairman of Labour Committee, and courtesy of me, the lifespan was as short as that of Simon Makonde. I do apologize for those I may have wronged. Honorable Speaker, in his speech also, the President mentioned and actually warned Kenyans against foreign interference. He mentioned countries that have been interfered by foreigners for the benefit, for their own benefit, so that they can capitalize on the underground resources that are found in those particular countries. You have mentioned the instability that is in Somalia, Sudan, and other African countries that foreigners have intentionally interfered or destabilized them so that they can benefit from those resources of that country. The President wanted Kenyans to love their country and to stand for the benefit of their country and to be united and to reject any international interference, just like what we saw when our brothers and sisters were taken to ICC. The intention of those international criminal court and other foreign masters were to use our civil societies, who in other times turned to be evil societies, who are used to try and destabilize our state, simply because probably we have gotten oil in Turkana. Let us all stand united and reject any division that may come either within or outside. The President also mentioned the issue of cash transfer, especially to the vulnerable during the recent drought. And he mentioned specifically that money was transferred to them so that we can restore their dignity. You know, a long time ago, Kenyans were made to line up in long queues under the scorching sun and rain so that they can be given 1 korokoro, if I can quote the President, or 2 korokoros of maize. Now, they were given money so that they can have their purchasing power, so that they can decide what to buy, what food is good for them. In that spirit, I also want to call upon other cash transfer programs, cash transfer to the older persons, cash transfer to severely disabled, cash transfer to orphans and vulnerable children, to be transferred through mobile money transfer so that we don't pay manually. Because when we pay manually, we destroy.
I would like to appreciate a few things which I was able to note down as we listened to him yesterday. And the first important thing is, I think we've not had many occasions, especially in our continent, where sitting presidents recognize role played by other gallant sons in democratization of a given country. His Excellency's appreciation of role played by the late Kenneth Njindo Matiba stood out, and something for which we need to thank His Excellency the President. Probably we need to know that the democratic space we are enjoying currently could not have been realized without sacrifices of men like the late Honorable Matiba. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, it's also important that His Excellency appreciated the role played by our predecessors, the members of 11th Parliament. Of course, they were elected immediately. We promulgated 3 years after promulgation of the new constitution. So they had the honor of facilitating operationalization of devolution through coming up with enabling legislations. And they did marvelous job, and it's good that His Excellency appreciated that. we've also had lessons drawn from their efforts. And I think some of the amendments to some pieces of legislation which are passed as a result of probably testing the laws which were to facilitate operationalization